Hi, I'm Lisa Anderson, president of LMA Consulting Group and host of Supply Chain Chats. I'm thrilled to be here today with my colleague, Diane Garcia, as we talk about the critical importance of sales forecasting and demand planning for custom manufacturers, engineer-to-order type manufacturers, also known as ETO, and actually configured to order as well, which is also known as CTO. That adds a lot of complexity to the demand planning process, and it creates definite issues that they call us about. So Diane, what types of issues does the demand planning process cause for custom manufacturers?
Well, a lot of the ETO, CTO clients that we work with, these products, like you mentioned, there's a lot of complexity. The products are very complex. They may be going into large buildings or large facilities. So it depends on where these products may end up. But ultimately, because there's a lot of unknowns or specifications that have to be met from multiple parties, there's a lot of engineering work that has to be done. And because that engineering work takes time, usually a lot of the lead time gets eaten up by all of that upfront work. And so now the supply chain and the operations side of the equation gets very compressed. In addition to the lead time being compressed, they also see long lead times to their customer base. So overall, what we typically work with is how do we help to alleviate or reduce those lead times for these key clients?
Yeah, for sure. Like all of the executives are focused on how do I reduce my lead time, because that's what they consider to be successful service. Mm-hmm. Because they're interested in, one, serving their customers successfully so that they have happy customers, but also they're looking to grow the business and take business from the competition. And in order to do that, they need to be able to, have the shortest lead times with high service levels and right priced type products that meet their needs. So with that said, why is it that sales forecasting is such a tough topic for custom manufacturers?
Well, most of the ETO clients that we work with will tell you that everything is engineered from the very beginning and it's never used again. So everything is engineered and only known at that time, and then you'll never produce it again. But what we will find when we dig in and ask questions around the product and learn more about the product and the end use is that there is actually a lot of commonality. And so we usually will slice and dice the information for these products in terms of perhaps sizes or models or lengths or material types. There's, depending on the product, there's different scenarios that we've seen. But ultimately what you're looking for is what's that kind of standard or configured piece of the equation. Maybe it's not 100% of the product, maybe truly are seeing, 50% engineered and 50% more standardized. But usually what we see is those clients can find about 30 to 50% of common items that then can be turned into a sales forecast and do some demand planning with.
No, that's very true, because the idea behind the sales forecast, in addition to having an idea of what your business is going to look like, is you need to be able to plan ahead with like a SIOP process, sales inventory operations planning, and take a look at your capacity. So what type of labor, people, skill sets, machinery do you need? Also, what types of materials, are you going to be ordering? And maybe setting up some longer term contracts with your suppliers so that you can set up more of a win-win relationship with, both sides increasing their profitability and visibility. Can you give us an example, Diane? Like what is a, material type that, comes up frequently, or some type of an example?
Well, it depends on the product, like I mentioned, but a lot of clients that we work with, they have a lot of material types that are related to metals. So some of the product may be using raw materials like an aluminum or a stainless steel product or cast iron or gray iron. I mean, there's all types of different metals, but that usually comes up in these conversations about what, maybe you need more aluminum, or maybe even like you mentioned with the SIOP process, you're seeing trends change to maybe historically you were using more stainless and now you're starting to use more aluminum. And so how do you feed those trends and ultimately prepare in the right way and, purchase and right size the inventory that you need based on those trends?
Yeah, there's a lot of results that can come by looking at models or, groups of sales forecasts. And what do you do with those sales forecasts and what results occur?
Well, like you mentioned, the sales forecast feeds really everything. I think we skipped over a key piece of it, but not only are you using current orders that you maybe are working through the engineering design work, but there's also quotes. Perhaps not every quote, but there's a lot of quotes out there that are at least more probable. So those are going to be taken into account with the sales forecast. And you want to have as much of that information and good information in the sales forecast as you can to then help ready the supply chain, have the right materials. Like you said, ready the equipment. You may want to invest in certain heavy equipment or new machinery, new laser cutter machinery. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to use a sales forecast on the capacity end and the operational end. And you also may have to figure out what kind of skill sets you're needing. Are you going to have the right amount of welders or machine operators, or are you going to have to increase that over time? So the sales forecast really, it's a great place to start to help you get ready in the long term for all of your supply chain and operations side anticipation.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Diane. And I'm glad you brought up the quotes, because there's a lot of value that you can get at looking at quotes, because after all, if you wait until an order is completely engineered, that's why you have the compressed lead time. So even if you look at your orders when you first take them, because it could take 3 months, 6 months, it just varies, but it can take a long time to engineer some of these highly configured and engineered products. So if you look at the order up front and you take out a certain model type or material type, you can start to place more of the right orders with suppliers and be looking at your capacity up front. I know that's resulted in significant lead time reductions for our clients, but maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we have a more recent client that experienced a 25% growth in their sales. And they also reduce lead time significantly. So they're more responsive to customers, and customers are recognizing that and placing additional orders. And like you mentioned, these long-term quotes out there. And then the other thing, the sales forecast feeds all of this information so you can better prepare the supply chain and the capacity and the operations in, but it's also allowing you to better manage your inventory levels, because now you're not purchasing things that, in the past, maybe you were using a lot more of a particular model size or material type, like you mentioned. Maybe those trends are changing, so you're buying the right things, or you're changing based on those updated sales trends and not bringing in inventory that you don't need or that will sit on the shelf.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Right sizing inventory is a hot topic, and you have far more information to plan your supply chain in advance and to better control your inventory so that you have the right inventory in the right place at the right time. So you can serve customers successfully, but you don't have extra inventory tied up unnecessarily, which ties up all of your cash, which today is something that, well, you never want that to happen. But in today's high interest rate environment, is specifically something you definitely do not want to happen.
Yeah, and we've seen plenty of results with clients, upwards to 40% inventory reduction through working on projects that, review the sales forecast, and you incorporate and plug in the sales forecast with the SIOP process, and that is reviewed on a regular basis. And now you're using the system to support those updated information and updated processes. And now you're able to see those results and make sure, like you said, you have the right stuff on the shelf and not the wrong things on the shelf.
Yeah, absolutely true. And with a 40% inventory reduction, not only do you free up cash, but you can have a more efficient, warehousing and operations. And if you have to source additional warehouses, like, it's a direct line to increase profitability as well with reduced cost. So I think the name of the game here is that if you can improve your sales forecast, your demand plan in an ETO custom manufacturing client, you can drive profitable growth, is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Now, do you also need to buy a fancy, expensive system to achieve this in this industry?
No, I would say most of the clients we work with have an ERP system, and there are tools or some tool sets available for them to leverage the functionality and build some sales forecast and feed it into their ERP system. But we've also worked with plenty of clients who start out with just using Excel-based models to incorporate, like we said, finding those standard sizes or those commonality parts, using Excel to kind of feed in and find those trends. So we really have seen it all, and the results have come with any of those tools. So it doesn't really matter about the tool. What matters is making sure that you have the right data, the right team, the right questions are being asked, and all of that's brought together and reviewed regularly and fed into the SIOP process, as we mentioned.
Agreed. I think that from a custom manufacturing point of view, it's we can typically do we can achieve these types of results. 25, 40% sales growth and inventory reductions without buying any fancy sales forecasting type software. It's much more important to get the model type information and be able to extract that information and utilize like a SIOP process in this type of an industry. So it's now, that said, as you pointed out, Diane, the ERP system, generally speaking, is, these clients are going to have an ERP system. And really with any modern ERP system, we can utilize the MRP type functionality, advanced planning if it exists, and other standard functionality to drive these types of results. Do you agree with that?
I do. The only thing I was also going to add, we mentioned this at the beginning about the challenges that these particular clients who are engineering to order, configure order are experiencing. And I would say one of those is that perhaps there's different data sources. The quotes, as we mentioned, may not be in the ERP system. They might be on an outside CRM system or CPQ related system. So part of the other equation is to bring all of these different data sources together properly so that the overall sales forecast is resulting in the right information. But, we've seen it time and time again. So the good news is that it's one of those things that we helped our clients, navigate through.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really great point. The data analysis, like a business intelligence type tool, can be a value add for these types of businesses. But if nothing else, you can at least bring the data sources together in Excel and you can achieve significant results. Mm-hmm. So I think that really the sales forecasting and demand planning is a great place to start, followed by utilizing a SIOP process to drive profitable growth with these configure to order, engineer to order type clients.